The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
To say after view distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell you all with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
Woo! Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network, powered up by the Belly Up Sports Network of podcasts. Sit back and enjoy as we bring you the latest and greatest in the world of sports, everything from the Detroit Lions to the state of Michigan sports to around the country and around the world. So what are you waiting for? Let's get out there and let's watch the latest edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And good evening, everybody. Indeed, welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. As always, powered up by the Belly Up Sports Network of podcasts. Thrilled to death to be a part of that network. All blessed as well to be there. Check us out, bellyupsports.com, the complete list of podcasts that we bring you each and every week, every day for that matter. And also check out bellyupsports.com for the latest articles on everything going on in the world of sports. The four major sports, college, pro, you name it, even some of the ones you don't think about all the time. So that's bellyupsports.com. And we got a great show planned for you tonight. March 1st, that means March Madness is coming around the corner, and we're going to be joined here shortly by one of our own here from Belly Up Sports, Tarun Subramanian. I hope I got that right. We'll get him on here shortly. We'll talk everything you need to know about March Madness coming up here. Wow, in about 2 weeks, just about the same time that the ACHA National Tournament kicks off. The reveal show for the March Madness is March 13th, I believe. So, yeah, we're like 12 days away. A lot going on before that, so we'll talk to Tarun here shortly. After that, we're going to touch on the Red Wings. They made a trade here tonight as part of the trade deadline. We'll go over some of the big trades in the NHL. Also, the Wings signed Dylan Larkin to an 8-year contract, $8.75 per year. There's no question now. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Red Wing for the foreseeable future. And as I mentioned, we'll talk about some of the other trades as well. And, of course, I'll give you my 2 cents on the load management situation going on in the NBA. I got in a little war of words with someone from Fox Sports, Jason McIntyre to be exact. So we'll talk about that. I'll give you my view on that as well. So without any further ado, let's bring in our guest here this March the 1st. Tarun, how are you? Tarun Subramanian. Did I get that right?
Hey, Lou, I got to give you credit for the first time, for a first-time person trying to pronounce it. Pretty close. It's Tarun Subramanian, but you can call me Subi. Everyone just calls me Subi.
Subi? All right. I can dig it.
But, Lou, it's great to be on. I really appreciate you reaching out. You're right. March 1st is here. Super pumped to be talking to you about college hoops.
Oh, man. You know, it's funny is I've started watching more in the last month. It's kind of like, you know, I'm not gonna say anything compared to the NBA, but I really don't start watching basketball until usually around January after football season starts coming to a close. And Subi, my first question to you is, man, it's a wide open season coming up for March Madness. Have you seen it lately where there's so many teams that have a legit shot at running the table and getting a national championship?
It is wide open. I think that's the general consensus. The only thing that I would push back, not on necessarily you, Lou, but there's a narrative going around that, quote, everybody stinks. And I don't necessarily buy that. I think there are some very strong teams like Houston, Alabama. Kansas wins their share of the Big 12 title for the millionth time, it seems.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to think that or be jaded and think that everyone should go into the tournament like a 2015 Kentucky who was undefeated.
Right.
There are some really strong teams, but you're right. It is wide open. When I look at, let's say, the 10th ranked team in the country right now versus the 21st ranked team, I don't see much of a difference. And if you put them on a neutral floor in a tough environment, I could see 21 or 22 beating a 10, and I wouldn't be that shocked.
You know, that's funny is you look at a Kansas State at 11. We'll go over kind of the bracketology, the latest one anyways, as of today. Kansas State is projected to be a 2 seed, but I'm right there with you. You talk about 10 or 11 and 21, that's Maryland. And I look at the Big Ten, and you go on the road, you get thumped, or even at home. I mean, Iowa against Indiana the other night, Iowa goes to Indiana and wins by almost 20. Holy cow. Man, it is crazy.
It's certainly tough to make sense of the Big Ten, especially. I think I was listening to SVP yesterday or last night, and after that Iowa win in Bloomington, he basically said, look, I could see Indiana as high as a 2. I think that's a bit far-fetched, but I get his point, the point that he's making, or as low as a 9. And there's still a ton of season and postseason. Of course, I'm talking about the Big Ten tournament to be played out. The middle of the Big Ten is just a complete mess, and it's going to be super interesting to see what happens here the next week and a half.
Well, you know, we'll dive into the Big Ten right now because obviously that's, I believe you're from Chicago and I'm from just outside East Lansing. You know, I look at the projection today. If the season ended today, Michigan would be the 3 seed in the Big Ten tournament. And I have my doubts that they're going to get into the NCAA tournament. Now they're projected as one of the first 4 out. If Jet Howard isn't healthy, I think that's going to come back to bite them. They got 2 tough road games coming up yet, but if you'd have told me they're the 3rd best team in the Big Ten, a couple of weeks ago, I'd have said you're nuts.
Conference play is incredible. You look at Michigan's performance in the out-of-conference schedule, and it was not very good. They lost to ASU, who's another bubble team. But Michigan, hat tip to them. Or I should say Hunter Dickinson himself. He single-handedly saved the season because if they lose to Wisconsin, NIT, it's pretty much Big Ten tournament or bust.
Yeah, right.
Now maybe they can garner some more goodwill with those 2 road games like you had mentioned. Maybe make some noise in the Big Ten, but it's not a necessity, I don't think, for them to win the Big Ten title. No. The thing with Michigan, Lou, is, I mean, I totally agree with you. I don't think they're a threat without Jet Howard, but I didn't think they belonged last year, and lo and behold, they made the Sweet 16 and beat a Tennessee team.
And that's something.
They're just a crazy team that who knows could get hot and make it to the second round. But I will say, and we discussed this on my program a couple nights ago, I will say the Wisconsin-Michigan game, it was super important for both teams, both fan bases. Neither of those teams moved me, though, in terms of seeing them advance far.
No, I agree. And, it leads to my next question. It seems like every year the Big Ten will get 8 teams, sometimes 9 in recent memory. And more often than not, Subi, they lay an egg. I mean, it's just they get beat in the first couple of rounds. Obviously, Michigan made it to the Sweet 16, but why is that? What has been the reason the last couple of years that the Big Ten has been so disappointing once they've gotten into the big dance?
I'm not sure. I think, and it's funny. I'm actually a Pac-12 guy, so I went to Arizona, and the last national title the Pac-12 boasted was Arizona in '97. I think the last national title winner that the Big Ten had was Michigan State.
Yes.
Mateen Cleaves, Tom Izzo, of course. So I don't necessarily know how I can diagnose it, but what I would say is the last few years, Purdue has been such a buzzsaw. And I was actually in Philadelphia last year when they were shocked by St. Peter's.
Okay.
And I don't know. I look at it and I'm trying to think to myself, how does a team like Purdue get upset? And it seems like they always do get upset and never really reach their full potential in March. Michigan, I think they lost to UCLA a couple years back where I thought they were the better team. Indiana is just now finding their stride. I think Mike Woodson's been doing a great job with them, but
I agree.
They were a play-in team last year. Now we'll see what happens with them this year. Rutgers, I'm looking for them to take that next step in the maturation process. Iowa, they get upset by Richmond last year. Lou, I don't know, I suppose is the best way I can describe it, because they have the competition and they're prepped and ready to go, you would seem to think, and yet somehow they lose to St. Peter's and Richmond. I can't really tell you.
I know it's the mystery that abounds every year for the Big Ten, and it seems like in college football as well. You know, they get the ink, they get the glory, but then when it comes to crunch time in the bowl season and now in the March Madness portion, it's they sometimes don't live up to expectations. That's for sure. Hey, I wanted to ask you, I'm going to jump all around, so bear with me.
Please
you brought
do.
up a point a little bit earlier about how all these people, the pundits say everybody stinks. What cracks me up, and I'm kind of wearing the Gonzaga shirt here tonight, is what are they 25-5 or whatever it is, and they're ranked 10th or 11th or whatever, and everybody thinks that it's a disappointing season for Mark Few. I mean, I'm not gonna. To me, they're gonna be a tournament player. I wouldn't be surprised if they go all the way to the Final Four again, but it's nice to have expectations and have a disappointing season being only 5 losses.
Gonzaga has set the bar so remarkably high, not just for themselves, but even for other programs.
Yeah.
You think about the team with Jalen Suggs that went all the way to the national title game. They were undefeated. People forget that. They were undefeated. And so that puts to rest the whole, well, they can only just play in their conference. Well, they ran through the NCAA tournament. Granted, they got smacked up pretty good by Baylor, who was another tremendous team.
Yeah.
But the standards are so high for Gonzaga. And I'm wondering to myself, and I've been watching them, Lou, I think it's a terrific question that you're posing. Number one, no, I don't think it'd be a disappointing season for them. But I'm wondering to myself, is this a better thing where the eyes of the nation are not on them? They don't have a Chet Holmgren anymore, who was a lottery pick. They got really good players. They got Drew Timme, who's a really great college basketball player, Julian Strother, Rasir Bolton. But I'm wondering to myself, and I'm thinking back, when Gonzaga really made their hay and started building this empire as we know them today, basically leaving as a mid-major. I know they're a mid-major, but nobody really considers them that.
No.
It was when they were winning these games, it was when people didn't necessarily expect them. The last four or 5 years, people have been saying, all right, I expect Gonzaga to be at that one line. And then when they don't hoist a national title, it's a disappointing season. This season, I think there's a little less pressure on them. And you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw them going far. To be honest with you, I kind of see that with Duke as well. They haven't lost at home at all. Yeah. And I think a lot of people wrote them off just because they're not ranked. I don't know if they have the ceiling as Gonzaga, but let's not just say that Duke's going to be done in the first game.
You know, you bring up Duke, and it's funny. Have you ever – it's like they're under the radar. And when was the last time you could say anything like that about a Duke team?
I can't.
And to your point, what did I hear this morning? I can't remember their coach. He's a rookie coach. I know everybody knows that, but he's the first rookie coach, I think, in Duke history to go undefeated at home.
John Shire. It's crazy.
John Shire. And I'm like, wow, what a stat.
I don't know if in coaching succession, coaching replacement history, there have been bigger shoes to fill than Coach K at Duke.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to go back to when Gene Bartle took over for John Wooden, you know.
That's a great point.
50 years ago or whatever, 45, 50 years ago, kind of dating myself because I can remember that. So, and I think he's done a hell of a job. You're right. Can you imagine the amount of pressure that he was under this year?
No, I do think he's done a tremendous job. And I think entering the season, there was a ton of talent. And the question was, can he cultivate that talent? And there were some rough patches in the beginning of the year. I think they started somewhere around top 10, maybe top 15, and then they tumbled out. And they were losing to teams that they weren't necessarily used to losing to as a program. But when you look at it and you say to yourself, wow, they didn't lose at all at Cameron, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is a monster win in year one for John Shire. And I think he's shown the ability already to recruit. Let's see how he does with these coaching situations and now starting to build them back up into a power.
Now, when you talk about Duke, you have to talk about North Carolina, 8 miles down the road. And, it's hard for me to believe that North Carolina is one of the first 4 out as well. I don't buy that. I think they're going to find a way to let them in. If they're anywhere close, I just think the committee is going to put them in. But even saying North Carolina and play-in game in the same breath, to me, I never thought I'd hear that, but I got a feeling there might be a chance that they could be in a play-in game.
It's a possibility. Absolutely. Wouldn't it be funny if we saw like a Carolina, Kentucky in a playing game? Kentucky's very squarely in for sure.
Yeah.
But Carolina, I agree with you, Lou. I think they're going to get in not only a majority on merit. I think they have the opportunity to get hot here. They just beat Virginia, which was a terrific win. And they needed that one. They also have a great opportunity at home against Duke. And the ACC, the ACC tournament, if they can win a few games in there, it's a distinct possibility. I think a lot of people think the ACC is down as a conference, maybe relatively speaking to what ACC standards are, but this is still a pretty solid conference. Pitt has shown the ability to be good. Virginia, I still like. Even a team like Clemson only has single-digit losses. So I do think Carolina is going to somehow wind up getting in. And if a little bit of that comes from name cachet, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that about saying that they might be a little bit down. It seems like they've said that the last couple of years, and lo and behold, you get an ACC team in the Final Four or in the championship game, and it's so I will never say that anymore about the ACC, Subi, because it seems like whenever I do, they come up and bite me right in the behind, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of those teams makes a deep run.
Neither would I. And just real quick, my last point on the ACC.
Yeah.
Last year, half the field of the Final Four was ACC, Duke and Carolina.
Yeah.
It very well could have been 75% because Miami lost to Kansas in the Elite Eight.
Oh,
so think about that. If Miami beats Kansas, 3 out of the Final Four teams would have been from the ACC.
Man, that's funny. That's a great point. Subi, our guest here tonight from the the Theater of College Hoops. I'll get that right. And it's a great podcast. I invite you to check it out. Part of the Belly Up network of podcasts. Thrilled to have them with us tonight. It's March 1st in this area. They call it January, February, Izzo. So I give him his props every year because he always finds a way to do something in the Big Ten tournament. But what I want, next on my thought process here with the big with March Madness around the corner, what do you think of the chances for a team like Marquette winning the Big East? I harken back to the 80s when the Big East was, the dominant conference and maybe into the 90s. But give me your thoughts on the Golden Eagles of Marquette.
So first and foremost, I am very envious of the good folks of Milwaukee because they're being treated to a great product in the NBA and also in college, right?
Yes, 100%.
It's been a great ride for them. So as it pertains to Marquette and their future, to be honest with you, Lou, I don't necessarily think that they're going to match what their ranking is right now, which is 6. So usually the top 6, top 7 is reserved for an Elite 8 team, maybe a Final 4 team. I don't know if Marquette can get that far. Of course, we got to see how the matchups break down, but I think this is just a magical season for them. I won't be picking them in the Big East tournament because I think there's a bit too much parity and I don't know if they've been in these shoes before. But what I will say about Marquette, despite the fact that I don't think that they have a incredibly deep run, which is for me, Elite 8, Final 4, I could definitely see them playing in the Sweet 16. But what I will say for Marquette is they have done such a tremendous job. You talk about Coach of the Year candidates in Jerome Tang at Kansas State, even Bill Self at Kansas. Shaka Smart needs to be on that short list because everyone was talking about UConn, especially Creighton in the Big East. Can Providence repeat? They were talking about literally everyone in the Big East except for Marquette. I think they were picked 9th, and look at them, outright champions. Tyler Kolek is the Big East Player of the Year. I do love guard play, so I think if they rely on him, maybe they can go pretty deep. So in terms of the outlook, I just think there's a lot more seasoned and maybe even talented teams than Marquette, but that does not take away from what a tremendous season they've had. And Shaka Smart really seems like he's fitting well there.
Why does the Pac-12 not get the respect that I think they deserve? I mean, from a football standpoint, I love it that they don't get it, but from a basketball standpoint, I know they've got UCLA. And, I believe USC might be a player this year. Arizona is usually up there, but it always seems like is it because folks still on the East Coast don't get to watch them? And it seems like every year they fight that disrespect card and they can play it. And I believe that they deserve to play that card, but why is it?
Well, I think there's a couple of different factors. One, something that I already referenced. They haven't had a national title winner since '97.
Okay.
You got to end up winning some of these titles.
Okay.
So I take blame for that as a Pac-12 representative. Number one. Number two, Lou, you hit on something that I'm actually going to talk about on our show that comes out tomorrow. And it's not portraying and showing off your top matchups. Arizona plays at UCLA on Saturday. That's a top 8 matchup, 8 versus 4. Can you guess what time that tips?
Let me guess, 11 o'clock or 10:30 Eastern time?
Close. 10 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday.
Wow, boy. I'd have to take a nap to watch that with the hours that I keep.
Exactly. And it's just not feasible. It's not feasible for folks to watch a guy like Jaime Jaquez, to watch a guy like Azuolas Tubelis for Arizona. And so when you talk about not getting the respect, point blank period, some people just don't have the hours and the energy to watch some of these matchups because they're asleep or it's just too late in the day. So I think, the not being able to win since 97, not showcasing your product, but I also do think that there is a toughness factor, and there is something to be said about that because Arizona, they've been to multiple Elite Eights, but they've lost to teams from conferences that are perceived and honestly, in truth, probably tougher. 2 times to Wisconsin out of the Big Ten, once to UConn out of the Big East. UCLA loses a heartbreaker to Gonzaga, but even before that, I think they lost to a team like Carolina in 08. So they just they got to win a title. They got to win a title.
All right. I told you it was going to be jumping around. I forgot about this in the ACC. What the holy hell has happened to Louisville?
Well, so first of all, I don't know if you caught this yesterday, but did you see the dog performing?
I did.
Taking a number 2 on the court.
Oh my God, that was funny.
It kind of encapsulated their whole season, huh?
Isn't it though?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't mind the Kenny Payne hire because I was lucky enough to have former Kentucky player Nate Sestina on the program, and he spoke amazing words about Kenny Payne and how great he was. And so I did think that this was going to be something that could work for Louisville. I always thought it was going to be a challenge. So they lost to Bellarmine early in the season. I was like, that actually doesn't shock me too much, but they weren't even competitive this year. No. And that is what shocked me. And that is troubling. And it's especially troubling because they have a team. They have a team that they can exactly compare themselves to, and that's Maryland. They had a first-year head coach in Kevin Willard.
Yep.
The roster was in disarray. Look where Maryland's at. They're 21. They're doing just fine.
Yep.
So I think what the issue is there's no buy-in from the Louisville folks. I don't think Kenny Payne's – I will say Kenny Payne has had a very difficult time trying to get through to his players. He's really only got one guy, I think, that's fully committing, it looks like, and that's L. Ellis. No matter what the score, time of game, he's going to give you 100%. But Kenny, I think it's got to start with Kenny Payne. And if he doesn't get off to a relatively hot start next year, shoot, he might even already be on the hot seat there.
Boy, I wouldn't be surprised, because you look at every once in a while, one of the blue bloods has a down year. Michigan had a few, North Carolina a couple of years back or whatever. Even Duke, I think 1 year under Coach K didn't make it, but in UCLA, but never this bad. And this has been a collapse for the ages for a blue blood. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it's and it stinks because it's a team that I personally think makes the sport better.
Yeah.
And it makes the rivalry of Louisville, Kentucky that much better.
Do you ever, and speaking of teams that have been disappointing, I didn't think Georgetown would be this bad either. I feel bad for Patrick Ewing because I know, his heart bleeds for Georgetown. He's an alum. He's a, Hall of Famer, the whole 9 yards. And I truly feel bad for the guy.
I feel terrible for him as well because of all the things that you said. And I also feel icky, kind of gross, critiquing a legend like Patrick Ewing, just a basketball lifer legend, because I know how much he's given to the game. I know how great he is. Sometimes that just doesn't translate to the bench. No. And the experiment hasn't worked at Georgetown. And I think in the back of Patrick Ewing's mind, he knows that. Yeah. He's saying all the right things. He's like, look, as long as they'll have me, I'm going to give it 110%. And I think that he's done that. However, they are in the cellar, the absolute bottom of the Big East. Yeah. And there was a point this season where they were celebrating a Big East win for the first time in like a calendar year. That can't happen at a program like Georgetown. And I think what kills Patrick Ewing is he knows that cannot happen at a program like Georgetown because of all of his contributions, right? He's a pillar of that community. So I think it's over there for Ewing. I mean, look, he's pulled out a miraculous Big East tournament run and made the tournament before when they had no business going to the tournament. We'll see what he does this time, but I do think it's over there at the end of the season for Patrick Ewing.
For his sake, I hope you're right. I hope he can pull out a miracle, but I think I agree with you. Unfortunately, I think they may be looking elsewhere next year. Give me a couple of mid-majors that I should look for in the that you might have an eye on in the March Madness.
I can absolutely do that, Lou. So first and foremost, Oral Roberts. Okay. They're perfect in conference play.
Wow.
Right. They have not lost. I wouldn't even be surprised if they should have been ranked. I might make that maybe like a 24 or 25, but Oral Roberts, they got a dude, Max Asmus. And the thing is, Max Asmus was on this Oral Roberts team where I think 2 or 3 years ago, they upset number 2 Ohio State.
Yes,
so that actually that goes to your Big Ten woes. I should have brought them up.
That's all right.
Yeah. So look out for Oral Roberts. I think they could be really good. Watch out also for Florida Atlantic, FAU. Dusty May has done an awesome job in Boca Raton.
Really?
They actually have been ranked this season. They've been running through the Conference USA, I believe they're in.
That's funny. That's because if you look at bracketology, that's who they've got Michigan State playing in the opening round. So I'll keep an eye on them. Great team.
Be prepared for Dusty May's team in FAU because like I said, they've been ranked and then they're very good. And then the last team I'll give you there, Lou, is Colgate. Colgate out of the Patriot. Wow. Matt Langle is their head coach. I genuinely think he should be, if he wants to, I don't know if he necessarily wants to leave Colgate, but he should have the opportunity to be a high-level D1 coach. I'm not joking. If Louisville doesn't, if it doesn't work out with Kenny Payne, and if Georgetown, they move on from Patrick Ewing, I would seriously look at Matt Langle. And the reason I say that is because he owns the Patriot League. They always win that conference, but more so, they give their first-round matchups serious trouble in the NCAA tournament. They almost picked off Wisconsin last year. Year prior to that, they almost picked off Arkansas. Colgate, keep an eye out for them, Oral Roberts, and FAU.
I like it. I will definitely do that. All right, let's go real quick. First 4 in, first 4 out. I'll just give you what they've got at bracketology, and I know it's going to change. These bubble teams, last 4 in, Mississippi State, Boise, Wisconsin, Arizona State. I don't know much about Boise State. Wisconsin, I've watched enough. We talked about them earlier with Michigan. It's hard for me to get excited about them because they're just, I don't know. They've been so underachieving, in my opinion. Of any of those four, which of those four do you think is the safest?
Lou, I'm speaking your language. First and foremost, I am so tired. The other night I had a bunch of bones to pick with the bubble. Get Wisconsin out of here. I don't want to see them anywhere near the bubble. They should be in Big Ten title or bust mode.
Okay.
Safest though, I do believe that will be Boise State.
Okay.
Boise State had a great win against ranked SDSU at home just last night. They had to pull off a 12, I think it was a 12 or 14 nothing run over the course of the final 5 minutes. Boise State has done an awesome job this year. Max Rice, Tyson Degenhart, and their head coach, who is Max Rice's dad, Leon Rice. I think Boise State should be off that bubble safely in.
Okay. And then the first four out right now, we talked about them: North Carolina, Michigan. You mentioned Clemson might be able to make a run to get in. And then the last one is Oklahoma State. I still think North Carolina is going to find a way in. And Michigan, I still think they have to split their last two games, somehow get a road win, and at least win one game in the Big Ten tournament, if not two.
I think that's feasible for Michigan, to be perfectly honest with you. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw or if we heard Michigan's name on Selection Sunday as well as North Carolina's name. Yeah. Now, I do think Carolina has a more favorable schedule, just in the sense that the ACC is worse than the Big Ten. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw both of those two teams in the field. As it pertains to Oklahoma State, they're another team that really I had a bone to pick with. The bottom 3 or 4 in the Big 12 consists of them, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma. Texas Tech and Oklahoma, get them out. They're done. I think the same thing for Oklahoma State. They were favored against Baylor, who's a tremendous team.
Right.
But that wasn't even competitive at home. So I'm done with Oklahoma State unless, of course, they win the Big 12 tournament. I forget the fourth team that you had mentioned there.
I think it was let me take a peek here. I thought it was Michigan, Clemson, Oklahoma State, North Carolina. Yep.
So Clemson might have some work to do. I think it's going to be a very, very anxious Selection Sunday for them.
So let me ask you, what do you do first weekend? What's your favorite way to watch the first weekend of the NCAA tournament?
Curl up on the couch and just take the days off from work, Thursday and Friday. Yeah, I have to do that. It's funny when I get a response. I mean, it's cordial from my leader. They're just basically saying, "Oh, you got anything fun planned? Going anywhere?" I'm like, "Not really. I'm just going to be watching basketball for hours on end." So it's a lot of delivery food, sitting on the couch, and just being hot on the clicker. I got to go from. You got to identify your channels now. If you don't know where TBS, TNT. True TV, CBS, get on that now. But Lou, I'm a very simple man and straightforward. Just hop to the couch.
Nothing wrong with that. I will be in Boston for the ACHA National Championship Tournament doing play-by-play that first weekend. But I'll be watching the hockey and doing this, looking at my phone for updates and all that throughout the weekend. That's for sure. What about Selection Sunday? Are you going to be glued to CBS?
Yeah, exactly. So I actually might be doing a live show. Nice. Well. So as the picks roll in, live reactions, I think that could be fun. But yeah, I do love Selection Sunday. I joke about it. I call it the holy day. It's honestly one of my favorite days of the year, and I really can't wait. And there's nothing better than, I'm old school in this sense. Yeah. I print out my bracket. Nothing better than just a fresh, plain bracket that you're staring at, and then you just go to town making your edits. So I'm looking forward to Selection Sunday. Yeah.
Wow, what a novel concept, huh? So do you have a feeling either way about the Big Ten championship game on that tournament being right before Selection Sunday? Would you prefer it on Saturday?
That's a great question. You know, I've been asked a lot of college basketball questions, Lou. I think that's the first time I've ever been asked that.
Wow.
And it's super unique. I don't know. So as a player, I think I'd rather it Saturday. Saturday screams a little bit more prime time. And I don't know, maybe I can shower, get a little bit more dressed, be more comfortable. I think about a team like, well, if Michigan gets all the way to the title game,
Yeah.
they shouldn't worry too much
Right,
about
right.
getting in.
Right.
But I don't know. I think about, let's think about a team who might be lower in the standings, like a Penn State.
Yeah.
If Penn State gets all the way to the Big Ten title game and let's say loses, man, you are going to be dirty, sweaty, and full of anxiety. That would be tough. So I think I'd rather it on Saturday.
Well, you want to know something funny? You're probably too young to remember. Obviously, I think you are. This was almost 40 years ago. Was the MAC championship game, including my alma mater, Central, was always on Sunday, right before Selection Sunday. It was over like about 3:00, and it would be like a small conference like that, as opposed now with the Big Ten. Is just kind of ironic how that's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Central Michigan, what's it? Go Chippewas, chips up. Is
Yeah,
right?
fire up chips. Yeah,
fire up chips. I should have known that.
Well, it's funny is my biggest memory. They won a game against Creighton, I think, 20 years ago in the tournament. But I remember in '87, or it would have been '88, when they played, when Marley was playing against Reggie Miller and Pooh Richardson, and got thumped. But at least they got there. But well, Subi, this has been great. Thanks for coming on. I would love to have you on after the tournament's over. We can rehash all the goings on of March Madness. Are you up for that?
Absolutely, Lou. This was a real pleasure. You do amazing work.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Enjoy the ACHA hockey tournament. I got my family's from the Boston area, so I know they'll be watching that as well. Yeah.
Give us, before you go, tell us about your podcast and what you got coming up.
Will do. Yeah. So you can find us Theater in College Hoops. Theaterandcollegehoops.com is the website. And then you can follow me at CBB Theater on Twitter. Just a bunch of content regarding postseason play, Lou. This is now Jerome season. It's called the Jerome, where we pick the conference tournament winners. Right now, this week, a lot of the smaller conferences are going, like the Atlantic Sun, and a few other, like a bunch of OVC, all those. Next week is when you get the big hitters, like the Big East, Big Ten, Big 12. And we'll be pumping out content for that. And then just looking forward to the tournament. And like you said, it's going to be a wild one.
Indeed it is. Well, Subi, thanks for coming on again. Enjoy March Madness. Make sure you get plenty of takeout for that first weekend. And we'll be talking to you real soon. Thank you.
I'll be sure to do that. Thank you, Lou.
You betcha. Subi joining us here tonight. What a great insight on the national tournament coming up. March Madness. Are we allowed to say that? Until they yell at us, I guess we are allowed to say that. We want to thank him for coming on the program. Catch him at the host of the Theater of College Hoops. Check it out at Twitter at CBB Theater, all one word. So we want to thank him for coming on the show. Great insight. I don't know, man. I still think Michigan needs to they've got a little work to do. 2 quad 1 games coming up this weekend, though. Illinois, I believe, tonight, and then Indiana on Sunday, I believe. And so both road games, if they can pull one of those out, you never know. But it's going to be interesting to see. Like we talked about, can Purdue finally do something in the Big Ten tournament? Or I'm sorry, in the NCAA tournament. They got a potential play of the year, Zach Edey, or Edey, or however you pronounce it. But they always find a way to lose too. And again, with the Blue Bloods, North Carolina, I will believe that they are not in the tournament when I'm watching Selection Sunday and their name isn't called. They'll find a way in. And Duke will make some noise. You got Kansas, UCLA. They're the Blue Bloods, but I like what he said about Florida Atlantic. And again, the projections have them play Michigan State in the opening round. And I think the winner of that would play possibly Kansas State. Wow. There's nothing like March Madness when it comes to hoops. And can't wait for that. We thought we'd start it today, March 1st. It's right around the corner. In 12 days, the brackets are announced. And then we go from there. And it's when it gets crazy with the play-in games on Wednesday night, then the opening round on Thursday, then you've got Friday. Yeah, it's definitely fun. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. Subscribe to our network on YouTube. We've got all of our broadcasts that are archived on our YouTube channel, as well as our ACHA Power Play broadcast as well. Just a reminder that we will be in Boston for the ACHA National Tournament coming up March 16th through the 21st. 5 days, or 6 days rather, 5 divisions, 3 in the men's, 2 in the women's, some great college hockey action. If you're in the Boston area, check us out. And all the games will be broadcast on Hockey TV, Flow TV. But we here at the Captain Lou Sports Network, we will be having the ACHA Tonight wrap-up show each night of the national tournament. We'll have all the scores, all the brackets. We'll have interviews, you name it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great setting for college hockey. That is the ACHA National Tournament live from Boston. And again, programming note, we will be on every night after the final game with a wrap-up on the ACHA Tonight here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. So speaking of hockey, let's switch gears. Let's get the puck here. And as we wrap up the show tonight, some goings on in the NHL. The trade deadline is coming up Friday, and some players are changing teams. My Detroit Red Wings, they made some news today. First, not really a trade, but Dylan Larkin getting 8 years, 8.75 per. I like it. He's going to be a Red Wing now for the foreseeable future, at least for 7 or 8 years until the last year, if they want to trade him at the trade deadline. I don't know if that'll happen, but that's a long ways down the road. He's been, the face of Detroit hockey for the last few years. Steve Yzerman's got the plan going. I know right now they're in 7th place in the division, but they're only 6 points out, and they've got games in hand yet on some of these teams. And I know the Red Wings kind of got punked in Ottawa, to say the least, last couple of nights. So they're kind of licking their wounds right now. But I like the signing. 8 years, 8.75 per, right in range with your number one centers throughout the league. So there was talk that small rumors going around that he might get traded this week. Well, that's not going to happen. So my hat's off to the Red Wings. Steve Yzerman getting Larkin signed up long-term. He is definitely the face of the franchise right now. Now they can are they going to be sellers at the deadline? They're kind of leaning that way, because right after that, about an hour and a half ago, it was announced, and I love this trade. Philip Roenick to the Vancouver Canucks and a 4th-round pick. They get a 1st-round and a 3rd-round pick in return. Now, that 1st-round pick is protected from the New York Islanders, but still, I think it's a hell of a deal. I love what Detroit did there. So now they're going to build some more draft capital. I was hoping they would get Chichirin from the Phoenix Coyotes, but he's gone now. He got traded to Ottawa. Ottawa making some moves to try to make a playoff push here at the deadline. Kind of, Ottawa's a surprise. It's fun to see them kind of get in their way. I just wish they didn't take it out on the Red Wings the last couple of games. But now my question is, are the Red Wings going to be sellers, complete sellers? My next question is Tyler Bertuzzi, is he on his way out of Detroit? Are they going to sign him? What are they going to do with him? We're going to find out by Friday afternoon at 3:00. But some big moves for the Red Wings, making noise here today, getting Larkin locked up and, getting rid of Roenick, one of their defensemen. So, they signed Wallman yesterday. He's benefited greatly playing with Mo Seider. And I like what Detroit's doing. It's been a while since they've been in the playoffs, but I like what Yzerman's doing. They're contending to get in the playoffs. Now, we all know that they're not going to win the Stanley Cup this year, but, doggone it, I'm tired of having them play for the future. If they can sneak into the playoffs, get that experience with this young core, why not? If they don't make it, they're going to get, obviously a chance for a lottery pick, but it's a deep, deep draft coming up, and they're going to have a couple of 1st-round picks now. That's awesome. Love it. Patrick Kane going to the Blue Shirts. They've made some big trades. Now let's see if they can go all the way. Now, obviously there are some pillars in their way. Boston, what have they won? 8 in a row now. They're closing in on Detroit's all-time record for a single season. You got Pittsburgh's doing decently, but you got Toronto, you've got Tampa Bay, Carolina. There's a lot of roadblocks in their way. But Patrick Kane wanted out. He wanted to go to the New York Rangers. I'm happy for him. He won 3 cups with the Blackhawks. He was able to get out. They're in total rebuild there right now. So that's a big trade. A lot of big trades in the NHL. This is the fun time of year. Let's see, kind of check out some of the other trades. The Hurricanes getting Gostisbehere. The Avalanche getting Lars Eller. We talked about the Red Wings already. The Senators getting Jakob Chicharin. The Coyotes get a first-round pick, top 5 protected. They get a second-round pick from Washington in 2024. That's a big trade. The Wild get Gustav Nyquist from the Blue Jackets. Kind of a minor trade there. The Oilers getting defenseman Matthias Ekholm. I love that pickup for the Oilers. The Predators get Tyson Barrie and Reed Schaefer and a first-round pick. They get a haul in return. I think that one benefits both teams. And those are some of the big trades. The Maple Leafs got Luke Schenn before the deadline. Capitals getting Rasmus Sandin. The Wild getting Marcus Johansson. Capitals getting a third-round pick for that in 2024. Those are just some of the trades happening this week. A lot going on in the NHL, but it's now we'll start keeping an eye on the standings as we're getting close now. 6 weeks left in the regular season, about 20 games. So some of the big trades going on right now in the NHL. Wanted to end the show tonight, talk a little NBA load management. For those of you that follow me on Twitter at the Real Captain Lou, kind of gotten a little bit of war of words with Jason McIntyre from Fox Sports. He's on with Colin Cowherd, and they were going back and forth on the load management issue. Now, I agree 100% with Charles Barkley. You've got folks, and I'm going to put me in that example. A year ago, my son and I drove over to Milwaukee. Unfortunately, my son got sick. He got food poisoning when we got there, so we couldn't go to the game. Well, the tickets that we got were good seats. They were $125 a piece. I figured spring break, why not? They were upper row, front row, upper deck. They were good seats. You go to one game a year. So let's say you average $100. And I know you could say this about any sport, but $100 a ticket, parking, you got a family of 4, food, you're looking at $600-700. So a lot of families can only do that one game out of the year. And what a guy like Jason McIntyre, what he said on the end of the second hour yesterday just really struck a nerve. And when Colin Cowherd, they went back and forth on it. He doesn't think that load management's an issue. And he says, well, it's not my problem that if a family or a child who tries to go to one game to see his favorite superstar and they don't want to play. No, I don't put it in. He said they should get a life and they should think of somebody else to, just something else to look forward to. That arrogance just pisses me off to no end. And we went back and forth on it, I understand they're making all that kind of money and the teams want to, they want to protect their investment. But damn it, I'm telling you, these guys are making $30-40 million a year. And like Charles Barkley said, they can't play 3 games a week. Now, I know I'm going to sound like the old man on, get off my lawn, but the guys back in the 80s and 90s who played a much tougher brand of basketball than they do now. It's a lot easier to play nowadays than it was 40 years ago. I know they didn't make the kind of money, but there was no such thing as load management. Kobe Bryant didn't do load management. Shaq didn't do load management. Okay, yeah, they might have played 77 games. They're not playing 60 to 65. So you're telling me it's okay for the teams to let these players sit out when they're on the road. They're one time they go like the Lakers would go to play in Chicago or in Memphis, or the one time that they might Dallas comes to Detroit and Kyrie or Luka doesn't play. There's a serious problem in the NBA right now. They're losing, their attendance is up, but they're losing interest fast. And that's why I just can't get into the NBA. I try, and I know we'll have the NBA playoff preview. I'll probably watch a little bit of it. And I know part of the reason too is Detroit stinks, but this load management thing is a huge issue. Something's got to be done. I don't know what it is that can be done. And the ones that are suffering are the younger fans. Again, some that can only go to one game a year, and like Giannis won't play, or you name it, anybody, Kevin Durant or Ja Morant or whatever. Kawhi Leonard, who he's the poster boy for load management. I just find it hard to believe these guys are going to be making $60 to $70 million a year in the next year or two, and they're only going to play 60 to 65 games. And Adam Silver acts like there's no issue with it. There isn't a problem. Yeah, there's a problem. The NBA is turning into a joke. I'm sorry, and I know my son loves it, and the younger generation does love it, but it's a joke. That's why I'm really looking forward to March Madness, college basketball. For the most part, the players are playing it for the love of the game. I know now they've got NIL and they're going to start making a lot of money, and before they even go to the NBA, but it's still there compared to the NBA. Yeah, whatever. So, all right, that's enough of that on load management. That's going to do it here tonight. What a great show. What a great guest. We had Tarun Subramanian from the Theater of College Hoops, thetheaterofcollegehoops.com. Check them out. Check out their podcast. He does a heck of a job, and a great insight tonight on who's in, who he thinks is going to be in, why the Big Ten always has the issue once they get to the grand stage of it all. Great insight. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it'll be on my YouTube channel. It'll be downloaded tomorrow. For those of you that like to listen to it on podcast style, it'll be on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, you name it. Check it out. We'll pass it along on our Twitter and our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at The Real Captain Lou. Follow us on Facebook, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, or Lewis Gamlin, or drop me an email, sweetlou1965@yahoo.com. Well, that's going to do it for our show tonight. We want to thank everybody for joining us. We got a packed week next week, as well as we get set for the ACHA National Tournament in Boston coming up March 16th through the 21st. And we'll get you ready for March Madness again. Conference tournaments will be in full force this time next week. So it'll be a lot of fun to talk about that as well. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the show. This reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving. And as always, keep your minds open. Thanks for joining us tonight here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza on the Captain Lou Sports Network. Until next week, so long.